Two people, 63-year-old Donald Lance and 61-year-old Jean Whitefeather, both behind bars on Tuesday, facing felony neglect with risk of injury charges. The Kanawha County Sheriff's Office is crediting neighbors in the area for prompting the investigation.
We were very fortunate this time that when the people called, we were actually able to go out there and see what was actually happening with our own eyes.
The sheriff's office says deputies responded to the scene around 5:45 Monday evening. When they got to the scene, deputies found a boy and a girl, both in their teens, trapped inside a 20 by 14-foot shed. According to court documents, the girl said her and her brother were not allowed inside the residence and were trapped out in that shed for long periods of time every day.
They continued their efforts to try to make contact with someone that could gain them access to the barn or to the residence, and they were unsuccessful. So deputies eventually had to go ahead and force entry to the barn, where they did locate a juvenile male and a juvenile female.
The sheriff's office says that deputies also found another child located inside of the house in a loft that was about 15 feet off the ground. Deputies say Lance and Whitefeather didn't show up on scene until a few hours into the investigation, where they were then taken into custody. They say all the children found were completely unsupervised and without basic living necessities.
The living conditions especially were horrible because there's no plumbing, there was no, bathroom facilities inside there. They were, appeared that their hygiene was, just horrific. So it's all very concerning. The biggest thing was to try to get them out of that environment, and at least, the top priority was to get them in some decent care.
All right, peace and blessings, ladies and gentlemen. All praises to the Most High. What you just saw in that video clip is an example of modern day slavery, not the modern day slavery that we talk about, where prisoners have to work for 5 or 10 cents a day. No, this is literally modern day slavery, where these two animals, Jean K. Whitefeather and Donald Ray Lance, had 5 adopted black children, literally locked up in a barn, chained, working all day on a farm-like setting, until neighbors saw the 2 children, as you heard, locked in the barn, and they finally called police. Now, this couple first adopted the children in Minnesota in like 2018. And then they bought a farm out in Washington State. Now, God only knows what happened in Minnesota and Washington State. And then they moved to West Virginia, and their behavior continued until 2023 in October, where a neighbor noticed the children locked in the barn, and she saw the 2 animals leave. And then she was concerned and she called the police. Police went out there, knocked on the door. The children were talking through the door, saying that they couldn't get out. And then they used a crowbar to get these children out. And so this is not the first incident that we've heard of where white adopted parents are mistreating black children. But I'm going to read you some of these details from this article to show you what type of evil that these people were doing to these kids. Now, they both were jailed. They were charged with several charges, including like human trafficking, and you heard some of the other charges. And now they are on trial as we speak. And I think the kids are slated to testify either today or tomorrow. But I'm going to give you some of this article that pretty much details what they were doing to these children. They were originally arrested on October the 23rd for neglect, human trafficking, civil rights violations, all ranging from the things that they did from these children, ranging from age 5 to 16. Now, the neighbor who called, they called on October the 2nd, 2023, claiming that the teenage children were locked in the barn. And then, of course, she communicated with the children and discovered they had no access to running water or any way of getting out. That is when she decided to call the police. Now, they did say that a key was later found inside the shed, but it was on top of a cabinet. Now, probably the kids did not know that the key was in there. But the officer said once the door was open, that the lady remembers, the detective remembers being struck with a wave of heat and a strong smell of body odor, meaning that these children were probably locked in there a long time. Now, they said also the shed had no running water, nowhere for the children to use the bathroom. They said it was something like a porta potty in there. Now, to show the outright audacity of this lady, Miss Whitefeather, they said that when they got back, the lady said she really don't understand why the police was there. And she told the police that, no, they like it in there. Now, mind you, these are 2 teenage children locked in a barn. Now, this is some of the other things that they did to these children. They said the barn had concrete floors, plywood walls, and an AC unit that was not plugged in, metal chairs, a small table, and a camper toilet. Now, that reminds me of a prison cell. And they said that these children, due to videos taken by the neighbors, they would work in the yard for hours on end. And also the neighbors called 911 twice for welfare checks. Now, my question is, what did 911 do on those welfare checks? Probably was a situation where, the white parents came out and said, no, they're fine. Nothing to see here. And of course, having that white privilege, the CSS workers probably said, okay, all right, we're sorry to bother you. And then they went on back and locked the children back in the barn. And the prosecutor said that these people they abused them physically, emotionally, and mentally so they would comply. Now, they also planned on using text messages from Ray Lance and Whitefeather as they communicated and mentioned making the children stand for long periods of time and locking the 2 older children in the outbuilding. And now, this is once again the audacity. Their lawyer says this case is about adoptive parents struggling to deal with their children's past trauma and severe mental illness. So it's not the parents' fault that they're locking these kids up, making them work all day, not providing basic necessities for them. No, it's the children. They just have trauma. So we have to keep them like that. We have to keep them locked up as animals. Listen to this further explanation. They said the relatives and the friends of Whitefeather, the lady, will testify that the 4 children suffered from physical, sexual, and emotional abuse by their mother, including what they say is the mother's use of alcohol or drugs while pregnant. What does that have to do with you treating the children like that? And one lady said, I think it was their lawyer, the defendant's lawyer, saying this is a normal family. They have Christmases, all of them. They have Christmas presents. They have family vacations. They sit around dinner tables and eat. What family you know that locks children in a barn? What family do you know that don't allow the children to talk to each other? Yes. One neighbor said that when the family first arrived at the home in Sissonville, West Virginia, a vehicle pulled up with a trailer for animals. It was raining and the children were told to line up outside. Now, I assume they're talking about a horse trailer. Could it be possible that they had those 5 children in the back of that trailer like a horse? Y'all seen those trailers where, you know, they're taking horses? And the neighbor said you never saw the children talk to each other. They didn't talk at all amongst themselves. You didn't see them outside unless they were working. They never played. And then the neighbor once again said that these children, some of them had difficulty carrying the fixing for the animals, the propane tanks, 4 buckets of water, and other supplies between the home and a trailer as the man watched. The lady said he made them carry it all, that heavy fencing. They would just stand there and wait for him to tell them what to do. Pretty much programmed. These children were programmed, basically field hands, or as they're putting it, slave. One lady said that the oldest boy was carrying a propane tank one time and he could barely walk. He acted like his feet were so sore. He was dragging them. And Mr. Lance was just standing there. He never said anything, not to help him. And then so the lady started filming that day. And then Ray Lance told her to stop filming, but she continued to film saying she don't care. Now, this all happened in Sissonville. Now, in September, they bought a bigger house in Beckley, West Virginia. I've actually been to Beckley, West Virginia before, and it was probably like about 1,000 people there at the recovery program convention I went to. It was about 4 or 5 black people, you know, so that's what Beckley, West Virginia is. So I assume that they moved to Beckley when they got too hot in Sissonville and probably wanted to continue their mistreatment of the children there. But before, as they were moving the furniture out from Sissonville to Beckley, that's when the neighbor said she saw Ray lock the 2 teenagers in the outbuilding. So first the man locked them in there, then the lady also left a short time later. And then that's when they called the police, the deputies talked to the door, then they used a crowbar to get the girl out. They said that when they found the children, they were in dirty clothes. The oldest boy was barefoot and he had a whole bunch of sores on his feet, basically making him work barefoot in the field like you see the movie Roots or Kuta Kinte. And then they said inside the residence, a 9-year-old girl was found crying alone in a loft with no protection from falling. And then they said a 4th child was with Lance when he eventually returned. And then deputies were later led to the couple's 5-year-old adopted daughter. Now, they don't even mention where she was. I can imagine what they were doing to that 5-year-old. They were finally arrested and the children were placed under the care of protective services. The children have been deprived of adequate food and hygiene care. Once again, that shed had no running water. And they tried to paint that shed as a teenage clubhouse. And they had a key in there, but the children didn't know what that key was. And then they also tried to justify saying the oldest boy had attempted to run away and that the lock on the outbuilding was aimed at keeping him from trying it again. Of course he was trying to run away. You're treating him as a slave. This is the outright insanity of these people. And once again, I commend everybody who, takes the time to adopt kids and, be a parent to some children who come from, adverse home. And that may very well be true, that those children experienced a bad time with their biological mother. But oftentimes it is those very same children that people will take advantage of. Treating these children basically as slaves, making them work all day, barefoot, can hardly walk, barely eating. So I always second guess, and take a second look and look at a child when I see them, with a white parent. And once again, this is nothing, no disrespect to all of those adoptive foster parents who do good work, do it from the bottom of their heart. But you still have to wonder, because a lot of these children don't talk. I remember I was on the way back from, where was I at? I think I was on the way back from Missouri. I was on the way back from the Missouri, and I was in the airport. And I saw this white man holding this infant black baby. I'm talking about the baby was only like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I started talking to him, I was like, how old is baby? It's like two weeks. Said, yeah, I just came down here to pick him up. Said, pick him up? He said, yeah, I adopted him. And so this man, and I think he said he adopted him with his male partner, whatever. You know what I'm saying? If that's your thing. You know what I'm saying? You want to swing that way, go ahead, swing that way. No sweat off my back. But I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, I'm going back to, matter of fact, I think he was going back to Minnesota. But this baby was an infant, and he was like trying to feed the baby. He was like, holding the baby all rough and stuff. And just, you know what I'm saying? Just like, this is a toy. This is a project. And that baby can't speak. There's no telling what type of things that they may or can. Not saying he will, but just looking at them like they don't even know this man, and they just give him this baby. Someone who can't voice their opinion, call people and say, hey, they're mistreating me. And these children probably grew up like that. That's why they were just so programmed, just standing there letting them tell them what to do, because that's all they knew. Unfortunately, in this situation, you had some neighbors who were concerned. In this case, I'm happy for the nosy neighbor Karen type of deal, because they were actually calling on something that needed to be called on. So salute to that neighbor, and also the police for stepping in. But that has always caused me to give a side eye when I see just people walking around with little black kids, and like you don't have any connection to them. It's going to take the love of God and the love of your heart. But these people were absolutely evil. And you saw the lady in what we call the turtle suit. In jail, you saw that green thing that she had on. That's the turtle suit. When you get in there, you probably was acting crazy. So under that, you butt naked, and they put that on you. So they had to take all your clothes off because you was in there acting funny or wild, or they afraid that you might hurt something. And it's obvious they both are crazy. Just look at them. They are two crazy individuals who did not deserve to even be near those children. But you can you imagine how many other children are possibly going through that same thing and accepting it as normal, thinking that is true love because of the situations that they have came from. And I don't know the vetting process. I've never, been through a process like adoption or had or known anyone. But man, this is very troubling to see, two upstanding all-American citizens treating our young Black needy children like that. There's a scripture that says, woe to those who pervert justice and, bring harm to the fatherless and the needy. The Bible speaks a lot about protecting the fatherless and the orphan. Those children are orphaned. And then the scripture said, if it, woe be it unto the, to those who do something to these little ones. It'll be better for them if a millstone was tied around their neck and thrown into the sea. I mean, a heavy weight was tied around their neck and thrown into the sea. That brother Ray Lance better hope he don't go to, one of those prisons. And if he do, he better go straight to PC when they find out what he did. And the women too. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this story in the comments, man. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We'll definitely keep up with this story. But once again, thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the video on 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings, and my prayers go out to those children. And, I hope, they find a caring home where people will love them and not treat them as slaves. Peace and blessings.
From local stories to Wayne County news, get ready to dive into everything happening in North Carolina with Taylor House Publishing. Got a story to share? Shoot us an email at taylorpublishinghouse@gmail.com. If you're looking to publish your book or need some top-notch mentorship, we've got your back. Join the excitement with the one and only Richard Taylor, right here at Taylor House Publishing. Speak with Richard directly at 919-587-7782. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and invite your family and friends to watch.
From Wayne County to the Carolina coast, Taylor House brings the news you love most. Tune in on YouTube, don't miss a beat. Local stories that keep you on your feet.
Taylor House, we got the school.
Taylor House Publishing.